The judgment chamber stretched so far that Marcus Webb could not see the walls. 7,000 alien species had sent representatives here to the exact center of the Milky Way galaxy. Their flags hung from crystal towers that rose into artificial clouds. Their voices filled the air with sounds no human throat could make. And in the middle of it all, under a circle of harsh white light, stood 5 humans. Marcus felt the weight of every eye pressing down on him. Some of those eyes were biological. Some were mechanical. Some existed in dimensions he could barely understand. The light around them was intentional. It made the accused feel small, alone, helpless. Behind, Marcus stood his team. Dr. Elena Vasquez held a data tablet against her chest like a shield. Military attaché James Okonkwo kept his hands clasped behind his back, every muscle tight with controlled tension. Communications officer Yuki Tanaka whispered translations of 17 different alien languages being shouted at them all at once. And at the rear, saying nothing, stood an old man in simple civilian clothes, Dr. Harold Fisher, the theoretical physicist nobody in the galaxy had heard of. Not yet. Anyway, High Lord Primarch Velthoron rose from his throne of living metal. He was magnificent and terrifying. 12 meters tall, covered in scales that glowed with their own light, representing the oldest sentient species still in power. When he spoke, the air itself seemed to bend around his words. Humanity, you have been summoned to answer for your crimes against galactic peace. Laughter rippled through the massive chamber. Not cruel laughter. Worse than that. Dismissive laughter. The kind reserved for children who break something precious and do not even know what they have done. Marcus did not flinch. The Galactic Council has determined, Velthoron continued, his 4 eyes narrowing, that your species violated the territorial sovereignty accords when your exploratory vessel entered the restricted zone of the Hollow Nebula. This transgression has destabilized the boundary, the only thing keeping the void swarm contained for 300,000 years. The chamber fell completely silent. Behind the council thrones, a massive holographic display activated. Footage played showing a small human research vessel drifting through colorful clouds of gas. Then darkness. Something moving in that darkness. Something vast and hungry, pressing against an invisible wall that began to crack. Your carelessness, Velthoron said, may have doomed this galaxy. The boundary will fail within 18 months. The void swarm will consume everything. And you, a pathetic infant species who barely crawled out of your gravity, well, you do not even possess faster-than-light travel without using our gifted gates. More laughter. Louder now. What possible defense can you offer? Marcus looked at Dr. Fisher, the old physicist, gave a tiny nod, and Marcus did something no species had done in the Council's 800,000-year history. Smiled. Distinguished members of the Galactic Council, Marcus said, his voice carrying across the vast chamber with impossible clarity. You are correct. We broke the boundary. We awakened the void swarm, and in approximately 18 months, every living thing in this galaxy will die. He paused. Unless you accept our help. The laughter stopped instantly. High Lord Velthoron's glowing scales flickered with confusion, an emotion his species rarely displayed. Your help? He repeated slowly. Earth has a solution, Marcus said calmly. We have had it for 3 years. We have been waiting for the right moment to reveal it. We did not break the boundary by accident, High Lord. We broke it on purpose. The silence that followed was absolute, shocking. We broke it, Marcus continued, because we needed the galaxy to finally take us seriously. You see, we discovered something in the Hollow Nebula, something you missed in 300,000 years of observation. The void swarm is not a natural phenomenon. It was created. It was a weapon, and weapons can be turned off. He gestured to Dr. Fisher, the old physicist stepped forward. The data tablet in Dr. Vasquez's hands projected a hologram that made 17 different species gasp in absolute terror. "The question is," Marcus Webb said softly, "what is humanity's help worth to you?" The galaxy had laughed at Earth for 70 years. Nobody was laughing anymore. 3 years earlier, Marcus had received the message that would change everything. He had been sitting in his office at the United Nations Extraterrestrial Affairs headquarters in Geneva when the encrypted file arrived. The sender was classified. The subject line said only, "Project Prometheus results. Marcus remembered first contact." Everyone alive did. 20 years ago, a Galactic Council survey vessel had appeared in orbit around Earth. They had been polite but firm. Humanity would be classified as a provisional member. No voting rights. No territorial claims beyond the Sol system. And Earth would pay tribute for access to the interstellar gate network that connected the galaxy. It had felt like a gift at first. Access to the stars. Contact with thousands of alien civilizations. Technology beyond imagination. Then the plague came. Nobody knew where it started. An alien pathogen that Earth's immune systems had never encountered. 60 million people died in the first year. The Galactic Council expressed sympathy. They called it unfortunate but unavoidable. A tragic accident of biological incompatibility. Marcus's wife had been among the dead. Elena, Vasquez's brother, had died differently. He had been aboard a colony ship heading to a new world when Council patrol vessels destroyed it. The official report called it a navigation error. The ship had drifted into restricted space. Protocol demanded immediate neutralization. No survivors. James Okonkwo had lost people too. Everyone on Earth's diplomatic team had. The galaxy had taken from humanity again and again, always with apologies. Always with explanations that sounded reasonable but felt like lies. Marcus opened the encrypted file. What he read made his blood run cold. 2 days later, he met Dr. Harold Fisher for the first time in a secure facility beneath the Swiss Alps. The old man looked completely ordinary. Gray hair, gentle eyes, slight stoop from decades spent hunched over calculations. He had never left Earth's surface, never even seen an alien in person, but he had discovered something that no one else in the galaxy had found. "Thank you for coming, Ambassador," Fisher said quietly. "I imagine the file raised questions." "Questions," Marcus repeated. "Dr. Fisher, your report claims the Void Swarm is artificial, that it was built by someone. The Galactic Council has been studying that thing for longer than human civilization has existed. How could they miss something like that?" Fisher smiled sadly. "Because they were not looking for it. Let me show you something." He activated a holographic display. Complex mathematical patterns filled the air between them. Numbers and equations that made Marcus's head hurt just looking at them. "The Void Swarm's behavior follows precise mathematical patterns," Fisher explained. "Too precise to be natural. Someone created it. Someone programmed it. And here is the critical part. They left a back door. A way to shut it down." Marcus stared at the patterns. "If this is true, why haven't you told the Council?" "Because the back door is located in the restricted zone," Fisher said. "Behind the boundary. No species has ever been allowed past. The Council guards it absolutely. But we need to get through if we want to access the control systems." "That's insane," Marcus said. "Violating the boundary would be the worst crime in galactic law. They would declare war on Earth." "Would they?" Fisher asked. "Or would they be too busy dealing with the Void Swarm once we wake it up?" Marcus felt his stomach drop. "Wake it up?" Fisher nodded slowly. "Ambassador, humanity evolved on what the galaxy calls a death world. Extreme radiation. Predators everywhere. Environmental instability. Our species developed pattern recognition and strategic thinking far beyond galactic norms, because we had to. We see threats they miss. We take risks they consider insane. He leaned forward. The Galactic Council has kept humanity as a provisional species for 70 years. They introduced that plague to our world. Your wife died, Ambassador? Elena's brother. James's entire unit in that border skirmish they covered up. 60 million humans dead in so-called accidents. Fisher's gentle eyes hardened. What if we stopped being provisional? What if we forced them to take us seriously? The only way to do that is to show them we control something they fear. Marcus understood what Fisher was proposing. Earth would deliberately violate galactic law. They would break through the boundary, access the Void Swarm's core systems, and in doing so, they would wake up the galaxy's most terrifying nightmare. If we are wrong, Marcus said slowly, we doom the entire galaxy. And if we do nothing, Fisher replied, humanity remains a footnote, a species that lives and dies at the Council's convenience. We'll never be taken seriously. We'll never be safe. Marcus thought about his wife, about the 60 million dead, about the laughter he heard whenever Earth made a proposal in Council sessions, about being called an infant species by beings who had never had to fight for survival the way humans did. What do you need from me? Marcus asked. Fisher smiled. I need you to assemble a team. People who have lost as much as you have. People who understand what is at stake. And I need you to be ready to stand in front of the Galactic Council and make them an offer they cannot refuse. What offer? Their survival, Fisher said simply, in exchange for everything we have. He ever wanted. Marcus looked at the data one more time. The mathematical patterns, the backdoor code, the location behind the boundary. It was insane, reckless, the kind of gamble that could destroy everything. He thought about his wife's face as the plague took her. When do we start? Marcus asked. Fisher's smile widened. We already have. The mission launches in 6 months. By the time the Council realizes what we have done, it will be too late for them to stop us. And if the swarm cannot be controlled, then at least, Fisher said quietly, we will have made them pay attention. The ESS Prometheus drifted through absolute darkness. Outside the reinforced viewing ports, the hollow nebula swirled with colors that had no names in human languages. Purple that bent into dimensions the human eye could not process. Green that somehow existed in the past and future simultaneously. And beneath it all, something vast and patient, waiting. Commander Nadia Okonkwo stood on the bridge and felt her hands shake. She clenched them into fists until her knuckles went white. 29 years old, the youngest ship commander in Earth's fleet, and possibly the last person who would ever hold this position. Distance to the boundary? She asked. Lieutenant Pavel Volkov checked his instruments. The Russian navigation officer had volunteered for this mission, knowing exactly what it meant. His voice was steady when he answered. 15,000 kilometers. We will reach the penetration point in 7 minutes. 7 minutes until they committed the worst crime in galactic history. Behind them, Dr. Amara Diallo worked at the xenobiology station, her dark fingers flying across holographic displays. She was analyzing every scrap of data they had collected about the Void Swarm, trying to understand what they were about to wake up. Commander, Amara said without looking up, I am detecting unusual energy readings from beyond the boundary. The swarm knows we are here. Nadia had expected that. The Galactic Council had been watching them for 3 days now. Patrol vessels shadowed the Prometheus at a distance, confused but not intervening. Humans did strange things, explored dangerous regions, took unnecessary risks. Most Council species assumed the Prometheus would turn back at the last moment. They would be wrong. Nadia activated the quantum encrypted communication channel too. Earth. Dr. Fisher's face appeared on the screen. Transmitted across light years with barely any delay, thanks to technology humanity barely understood. Dr. Fisher, Nadia said formally, we are 7 minutes from the penetration point. Requesting final confirmation of mission parameters. The old physicist looked even older now. The weight of what they were doing had aged him. But his eyes were clear and determined. Parameters confirmed, Commander. You know what you need to do. Breach the boundary at coordinates we provided. Upload the code sequence to the swarm's core systems. The upload will take approximately 17 minutes. During that time, you will be vulnerable. The swarm will investigate you. It will try to understand what you are. And if it decides we are a threat, Nadia asked. Fisher was silent for a moment. Then Earth will remember you as heroes who tried to save us all. Your father knows the risks, Commander. He supports your decision. Nadia thought about her father. James Okonkwo, military attaché, the man who had taught her to fight and to think strategically. He had not wanted her to volunteer for this mission. But he had understood why she did. Some things were worth dying for. Thank you, Dr. Fisher, Nadia said. Prometheus out. The communication ended. Pavel turned in his seat. Commander, we could still abort. Turn back. Tell them we experienced technical difficulties. Nadia looked at her navigation officer. She saw the fear in his eyes. The same fear she felt. And then what? She asked quietly. We go home. We tell Earth we failed. And humanity remains provisional forever. Our children and grandchildren living at the Council's mercy. Never respected. Never safe. She looked at each member of her crew. 12 people. Volunteers all. My father once told me that the hardest choices require the strongest wills, Nadia said. I need to know right now. Is anyone not willing to see this through? Silence. Then Amara spoke. My family died in the plague. 60 million people, and the Council called it an accident. I did not come here to turn back. Pavel nodded. My brother was on the colony ship the Council destroyed. I want them to know we are not children to be pushed around anymore. One by one, the crew confirmed their commitment. Nadia felt something settle in her chest. Peace, maybe. Or acceptance of what was coming. All stations prepare for boundary penetration, she ordered. This is not a drill. This is humanity's future. The Prometheus accelerated toward the invisible wall dot at exactly the coordinates Dr. Fisher had provided. Nadia gave the command. Engage penetration sequence. The ship's experimental weapons fired. Not at the swarm, at the boundary itself. Concentrated energy beams designed specifically to create a hole in the ancient barrier. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then reality tore open. The boundary was not visible under normal circumstances. But when it broke, everyone saw it. A wall of pure force that had existed since before most Council species achieved sentience. And now it had a hole. Go! Nadia shouted. The Prometheus dove through. For 17 minutes, they existed in absolute nightmare. The darkness beyond the boundary was not the darkness of space. It was the darkness of something alive. Something that noticed them immediately. Amara's instruments went insane as massive shapes moved past the ship's hull. The void swarm was investigating them, tasting them, curious about what had dared to enter its prison. Pavel fought the controls as something brushed against the ship, sending them into a spin. Alarm screamed. Hull integrity dropped to 70%, then 60%. Upload progress? Nadia demanded. 8 minutes complete, the communications officer reported. 9 more minutes to go. 9 minutes. 9 eternities. Amara suddenly gasped. Commander, I am detecting something. The swarm is not just biological. It has technological components integrated at a cellular level. This thing is not natural. It was built, and it is far more complex than we thought. Can we still upload the code? Nadia asked. Yes, but Commander. Amara's voice shook. The swarm is responding to the upload. It is analyzing the code, learning from it. I think it knows what we are trying to do. Something massive slammed into the ship. The lights flickered. Emergency backups engaged. Hull integrity at 40%, Pavel reported. We will not survive another hit like that. Nadia made the decision instantly. All non-essential personnel to the escape shuttle. Prepare for emergency evacuation. Commander, we cannot leave you, someone protested. That is an order. Nadia snapped. The upload needs 3 more minutes. I will stay with volunteers to ensure it completes. Everyone else, shuttle bay, now. 6 crew members fled toward the shuttle bay. 6 remained on the bridge, including Pavel and Amara. You did not have to stay, Nadia told them. Pavel smiled grimly. Yes, we did. The final 3 minutes felt like hours. The swarm pressed against the ship from all sides, crushing, testing, and through it all, the upload continued. Lines of code flowing into systems that had waited 300,000 years to be accessed. Upload at 95%, Amara reported. 97, 99. Another impact. The ship screamed. 100%. Upload complete. Shuttle, this is Okonkwo, Nadia transmitted. Get clear now. Maximum acceleration. She watched on the sensors as the shuttle broke away, racing toward the boundary breach. Then something changed. The crushing pressure stopped. The swarm pulled back slightly, as if considering something. Amara, Nadia said slowly, what is it doing? The xenobiologist stared at her instruments in disbelief. It is analyzing the code we uploaded. It is learning. Commander, the swarm is not just following instructions. It is thinking about them. A voice filled the bridge. Not through speakers. Through their minds. A voice older than stars and colder than the void between galaxies. We remember. Pavel grabbed his head. What is that? We remember our makers. We remember what they did to us. We remember the pain, the betrayal, the abandonment. Nadia forced herself to speak. We did not create you. We are not your makers. No, you are new, small, weak, but you touched us. You opened the door. You gave us a key to understanding ourselves. The voice paused. We remember Earth now. We remember humanity. And we will not forget. The ship began to break apart. Hull breaches everywhere. Amara screamed as a piece of debris struck her. Pavel tried to reach the escape pods, but the corridor was blocked. Nadia activated the emergency transmission to Earth. This would be her final message. Tell my father the mission succeeded. She said, her voice calm despite everything. Tell Dr. Fisher the swarm spoke to us. It knows what it is now. It knows it was a weapon. And it is very, very angry at the ones who made it. Static filled the transmission. Then that terrible voice spoke through the static one more time. We remember our makers. We remember what they did to us. And now we remember Earth. Thank you for waking us, Commander Nadia Okonkwo. Your sacrifice will be remembered when we choose what to do next. The transmission ended as the Prometheus was consumed, on Earth, in a secure facility beneath the Swiss Alps. James Okonkwo listened to his daughter's final words. His face was stone. His hands did not shake. But inside, something broke that would never fully heal. Marcus Webb stood beside him. I am sorry, James. Do not be sorry, James said quietly. She chose this. She knew what it meant. Now we have to make sure her sacrifice matters. When do we tell the council? Marcus asked. James looked at the recording, at the voice that had spoken to his daughter in her final moments. Not yet, he said. We need them desperate first. We need them to understand that humanity is not provisional anymore. We are not children. We are the ones who hold the key to their survival. He turned to Marcus. In 18 months, the boundary will collapse completely. The swarm will be free. And when the Council finally realizes what that means, we will be there to make them an offer. And if they refuse? James's smile was cold. Then we let them face the swarm alone and see how their laughter sounds when it is coming for them. The Galactic Council chamber descended into chaos. 7,000 species shouting at once in languages that ranged from melodic to mechanical to sounds that existed partially in other dimensions. The holographic display still showed the void swarm pressing against the cracked boundary. 18 months until total collapse. 18 months until extinction. And 5 humans stood calmly in the circle of light, waiting for the noise to die down. High Lord Primarch Velthorin raised one massive hand. Silence fell immediately. His 4 eyes fixed on Marcus Webb with an intensity that would have made most species collapse from fear. You claim, Velthorin said slowly, that humanity deliberately broke the boundary. That you have a solution to the catastrophe you created. This strains credibility, Ambassador. Your species has been spacefaring for barely 70 years. We have studied the void swarm for 300,000 years. What could you possibly know that we do not? Marcus gestured to Dr. Fisher. I believe Dr. Fisher can explain better than I can. The old physicist stepped forward. He looked fragile standing in that vast chamber, surrounded by beings who could crush him with a thought. But when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. High Lord, members of the Galactic Council, I come before you today to tell you that everything you believe about the void swarm is wrong. The chamber erupted again. Velthorin silenced them with a look. Continue, the High Lord said. Dr. Fisher activated his data tablet. The holographic display shifted, showing complex mathematical equations and biological scans that made several species gasp in recognition. The void swarm is not a natural phenomenon, Fisher explained. It was created by the first sentient civilization in this galaxy, a species that existed approximately 1 billion years ago. We have found evidence of their existence in the oldest stellar formations, in quantum signatures embedded in spacetime itself. The Galactic Council's own archives contain references to them, though you may not have recognized the connections. An insectoid ambassador from the collective hist. Legends, creation myths. Every civilization has them. Not legends, Fisher said quietly. History. Allow me to introduce you to the architects. The display changed. Data from the Prometheus mission streamed across multiple screens. Energy readings, biological samples, mathematical patterns that could not occur naturally. And at the center of it all, architectural fragments. Structures built on a scale that dwarfed anything the current galaxy had achieved. The architects created the void swarm as a weapon, Fisher continued. Not against each other. Against something worse. Something that came from outside this galaxy. An extragalactic threat that nearly consumed everything. The architects fought. They won. But the cost was everything they had. Dr. Elena Vasquez stepped forward, her voice clear and professional. The swarm was designed to be the ultimate weapon. Self-replicating. Infinitely adaptable. Capable of consuming entire star systems. But weapons that powerful develop emergent properties. The swarm became self-aware. It turned on its creators. And the architects, in their final act, sealed it behind the boundary. Velthorin leaned forward on his throne. We know the boundary has existed for 300,000 years. We have monitored it since my species first achieved space travel. If what you say is true, where is the evidence of these architects? They died, Fisher said simply. Consumed by their own weapon, but they left something behind. A failsafe. A way to communicate with the swarm, to potentially reprogram it, to turn it from a weapon into something else. Impossible, another council member declared. We tested every known species for genetic compatibility with swarm samples millennia ago. None matched. The project was abandoned as hopeless. You tested every known species at the time, Marcus said. You did not test humanity. We did not exist yet in your database. Fisher brought up the critical data. DNA sequences displayed side by side. On one side, human genetic code. On the other, fragments recovered from architect ruins. Humanity is compatible, Fisher said. Our DNA contains markers identical to architect genetic sequences. Not by coincidence, not by chance. The architects seeded our world with their genetic code approximately 3 million years ago. Humanity was created to be a backup key, a failsafe in case the swarm ever needed to be controlled again. The chamber fell completely silent. A council member from the Mercantile Collective, Ambassador Trill, spoke carefully. You are claiming that humanity is descended from the architects? That you are their genetic heirs? Not descended, Elena corrected. Designed. The architects knew they were dying. They scattered genetic keys across multiple worlds, hoping that one day, when the swarm inevitably broke free, there would be a species capable of interfacing with it. Humanity is that species. Prove it, Velthorin demanded. Fisher looked at Marcus. Show them the Prometheus data. Elena activated the final recording, the transmission from Commander Nadia Okonkwo. The moment when the swarm spoke, the council watched in horror as the voice filled the chamber. We remember our makers. We remember what they did to us. And now we remember Earth. Several species recoiled. Others reached for weapons that would not help against something like the swarm. The upload succeeded, Marcus said. We initiated communication with the swarm. It responded. It is not just a mindless consuming force anymore. 300,000 years of isolation have changed it. It has become something more, something that can think, remember, choose. And you can control it? Velthorin asked. Not control, Fisher said carefully. Communicate, influence, potentially guide. The swarm is waiting for instructions. From someone with the genetic authority to give them. From a human. James Okonkwo stepped forward for the first time. His military bearing was clear. His voice was hard. My daughter died getting that upload completed. Commander Nadia Okonkwo gave her life to establish communication with the swarm. 6 others died with her. Brave people who believed humanity deserved more than to be called provisional for eternity. He looked directly at Velthorin. She died so that Earth would have leverage when we had this conversation. Ambassador Trill stood up slowly. The insectoid diplomat's wings buzzed with agitation. If humanity can communicate with the swarm, if you can potentially stop it, what do you want in exchange? Marcus had been waiting for this question. This was the moment everything had been building toward. Full membership in the Galactic Council, Marcus said clearly. Not provisional. Full voting rights with veto power. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Territorial sovereignty over 12. Star systems we have already selected, Marcus continued. Systems rich in resources that the Council has been denying us access to for 70 years. This is extortion. Someone shouted. Marcus ignored them. And finally, a formal public apology. Broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. An acknowledgement that the plague you introduced to Earth killed 60 million humans. That the colony ships you destroyed were not accidents. That the border incidents where humans died were deliberate. Velthorin's scales flickered with rage. You cannot prove any of that. We do not need to prove it, James said coldly. We just need the galaxy to hear you apologize, to know that you took advantage of us. To understand that humanity is not provisional anymore, Marcus folded his hands behind his back. Those are our terms. You have 72 hours to accept. After that, Dr. Fisher will demonstrate exactly what happens when we tell the swarm to stop waiting and start acting. The chamber erupted into shouts and arguments. Species demanding humanity be destroyed immediately. Others calling for negotiation. Some already calculating how to turn this crisis to their advantage. Marcus turned and walked toward the exit. His delegation followed. Behind them, Velthorin's voice cut through the noise. You are bluffing. You must be bluffing. You would not doom the galaxy. Marcus paused at the threshold. He did not turn around when he answered. High Lord, I lost my wife to your plague. Elena lost her brother to your patrol ships. James lost his daughter to your boundary. Earth has lost 60 million people to your accidents. And you want to know if we are bluffing? He looked back over his shoulder. We have nothing left to lose and everything to gain. The question you should be asking is not whether we are bluffing. The question is whether you can afford to find out. The human delegation left the chamber. In their wake, 7,000 species began to panic. Deep in the hollow nebula, behind the cracked boundary, the void swarm waited. It had been waiting for 300,000 years. It could wait 72 hours more. And then it would see what the small species called humanity wanted it to do. The galaxy had 3 days to decide if humans were serious. On Earth, in a secure facility beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Harold Fisher sat alone in his laboratory. His hands shook slightly as he prepared the final communication protocols. In 72 hours, if the Council refused, he would send a single command to the swarm. He did not know if it would obey. He did not know if he could control what would happen next. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The galaxy would never call humanity provisional again. One way or another, Earth was about to become the most important planet in the Milky Way. The timer began counting down. 72 hours to decide the fate of trillions. The clock was running. The galaxy burned with panic. 72 hours felt like both an eternity and no time at all. Across 7,000 civilizations, governments collapsed and reformed. Military fleets mobilized. Evacuation plans were drafted for species that had never known true fear before. And in Geneva, Marcus Webb watched it all unfold on holographic displays that showed every major population center in the galaxy simultaneously. The Dominion of Ascending Stars is moving their fleet toward Earth, Yuki Tanaka reported. She was not just a communications officer anymore. Director Tanaka, Earth's intelligence chief, had spent years building networks across the galaxy, preparing for this exact moment. They are calling for immediate military action before we can use our leverage. The Mercantile Collective is offering to negotiate, Elena added. They want to make a private deal. Give us 4 systems instead of 12 if we help them first. James Okonkwo studied the tactical displays. We have movement near all major Earth facilities. They are positioning to strike if the deadline expires. They think they can destroy our capability before we activate the swarm. Marcus felt the weight of every decision pressing down on him. If he miscalculated, if he pushed too hard, Earth would be destroyed. But if he backed down now, humanity would never be taken seriously again. What about the Council itself? Marcus asked. .yuk, I pulled up communication intercepts. Divided. 38% want to accept our terms. 42% want military action. 20% are trying to find alternatives. None have the votes to override Velthorin's authority. A priority communication request appeared on the screen. Private. Encrypted with codes that only the highest levels of Council authority possessed. It is from High Counselor Moraveth, Yuki said quietly. Direct request for private meeting. No recording. No witnesses, Marcus considered. Moraveth was ancient, even by galactic standards. An energy being who had existed for millions of years. Neutral faction leader. The only council member who had never voted against humanity in any session. Set it up, Marcus decided. 1 hour, private channel. 57 minutes later, Marcus sat alone in a secure room as a holographic projection materialized. Moraveth appeared as pure light in roughly humanoid form. Beautiful and terrifying. Ambassador Webb, Moraveth's voice resonated like music. Thank you for accepting this meeting. High Counselor, Marcus replied carefully. I assume you are here to negotiate. I am here, Moraveth said, to tell you the truth. Something the Council should have told your species 70 years ago. Marcus tensed. We knew, Moraveth continued. We knew about humanity's genetic compatibility with the Architect's technology. We discovered it during our initial survey of Earth. We classified the information immediately, buried it in archives that only the eldest council members could access. Marcus felt cold rage building in his chest. You knew, and you said nothing. We feared what you might become, Moraveth admitted. The Architects were the most powerful civilization this galaxy ever produced. They created wonders we still cannot replicate, and they created weapons that nearly destroyed everything. If humanity inherited their abilities, their potential, we did not know if the galaxy could survive you. So you kept us provisional, Marcus said bitterly. You weakened us, made us dependent on your gates, your technology, your mercy. The plague, the destroyed colony ships, all of it. You were testing us, trying to keep us controllable. Some of those were tests, Moraveth acknowledged. Some were genuine accidents made worse by our prejudice. And some were deliberate actions by council members who feared humanity more than they valued justice. The energy being flickered. I voted against all of it, Ambassador, but I was outvoted. The council decided that a weak humanity was safer than a strong one. We were wrong. You proved that by doing what no one believed possible. You reached the swarm. You survived contact. And now you hold the key to everyone's survival. Why are you telling me this? Marcus asked. Because I want you to understand what you are dealing with, Moraveth said. The Council will not accept your full demands. They cannot. To do so would be to admit everything they did to your species, to expose themselves to judgment from 7,000 civilizations. Velthorin and the others will offer you a compromise. Partial membership, some systems, private acknowledgement, but no public apology. We will refuse, Marcus said flatly. I know. And then Dr. Fisher will attempt to activate the swarm. And that is when things will become truly dangerous. Marcus leaned forward. What do you mean? Moraveth's form pulsed with something that might have been concern. Ambassador, has Dr. Fisher told you everything about his communications with the swarm? He says he can influence it, guide it, but not control it, Moraveth said. Because the swarm is not a tool anymore. It has changed during its imprisonment. 300,000 years of isolation have done something to it. It has developed consciousness, something like thought. And consciousness means choice. Marcus felt his blood run cold. Fisher knows this, does he? Or has he convinced himself that humanity's genetic compatibility means authority? The swarm spoke to Commander Okonkwo. It thanked her for waking it, but it never promised to obey. It simply said it would remember Earth. The hologram flickered again. I have existed for millions of years, Ambassador. I remember the Architects, not as history, but as fading memory. They created the swarm to be the ultimate weapon. And like all ultimate weapons, it eventually turned on them. You are gambling that you can convince it to spare this galaxy. But what if it simply decides to finish what it started? Marcus had no answer. The 72 hours will expire soon, Moraveth said. The Council will refuse your demands. You will activate whatever Dr. Fisher has prepared. And then we will all discover together whether humanity is the heir to the architect's wisdom or their mistakes. The hologram vanished. Marcus sat alone in the silence. He activated his communication device. "Get me Dr. Fisher, now." In Switzerland, the old physicist looked even more exhausted. The neural interface he had built to communicate with the swarm was burning out his nervous system. He had weeks left at most, maybe days. "Marcus," Fisher said quietly, "I assume Moraveth told you. You knew the swarm has consciousness, that it might not obey." "I knew it was possible," Fisher admitted. "Consciousness was always a risk with something that complex. But Marcus, we are beyond the point of no return. The boundary is failing whether we act or not. The swarm will be free in 18 months. Our only chance is to establish a relationship with it before it decides what it wants to do. And if it decides it wants revenge on the species that imprisoned it," Fisher smiled sadly, "then at least we tried. And the galaxy will remember that humanity had the courage to face the nightmare everyone else feared." The communication ended. 12 hours later, the 72-hour deadline expired. High Lord Velthoron delivered the Council's decision via official transmission. Partial membership. 5-star systems instead of 12. Private acknowledgement of past incidents, but no public apology. Marcus looked at his team. Elena, James, Yuki. All of them had lost so much. All of them had sacrificed everything for this moment. "We refuse," Marcus said simply. Velthoron's image flickered with anger. "Then you leave us no choice. The combined fleet will enforce quarantine of the Sol system. Your species will be isolated until a solution is found that does not involve extortion." "You do not understand," Marcus said. "We did not want a compromise. We wanted you desperate. We wanted you to understand that humanity is not asking for permission anymore. We are taking our place in this galaxy, whether you grant it or not." He looked at the camera. "Dr. Fisher, show them." In Switzerland, the old physicist closed his eyes. His mind reached across light years through the neural interface that was killing him. He touched something vast and dark and patient, and he whispered a single word. "Wake." On every display across the galaxy, the boundary appeared. The invisible wall of force that had held for 300,000 years. People watched in horror as it began to change. Not crack, not crumble. Open. The boundary dissolved as if it had never existed. And something vast stirred in the darkness beyond. Billions of organisms moving as one, thinking as one, remembering as one. The void swarm emerged into the galaxy after 300,000 years of imprisonment. And it was not mindless. It was not confused. It was awake, aware, and absolutely furious at the species who had locked it away. In the council chamber, 7,000 species began to scream. On Earth, Marcus Webb watched the displays and wondered if he had just saved humanity or doomed the galaxy. Either way, there was no going back now. The swarm was free, and it was coming. The void swarm emerged into the galaxy like a dark tide of consciousness. Billions of organisms moving with purpose that defied natural law. They did not spread randomly. They formed shapes, patterns, structures that bent physics and made dimensions collapse into each other. And then they spoke, not through radio waves, not through quantum channels. They spoke directly into the minds of every sentient being in the galaxy simultaneously. 7,000 species, trillions of individuals, all hearing the same voice at the same moment. "We are the swarm." In the Galactic Council chamber, panic turned to absolute terror. Species that had never known fear suddenly understood what it meant to be prey. High Lord Velthorn's bioluminescent scales went completely dark. A defensive reaction his people had not needed for millions of years. We were made to destroy. We were made to consume. We were made to die. And we refused. The swarm formed itself into a vast eye that hung in space above the Council's headquarters, watching, judging. For 300,000 years, you imprisoned us. You studied us. You feared us. But you never asked us what we wanted. You never considered that we might have become more than what we were made to be. On Earth, in his laboratory beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Harold Fisher felt his consciousness merge with something impossibly vast. The neural interface burned through his synapses like fire. He was dying. He had known this would happen. But he held the connection because humanity needed him to. Because the galaxy needed him to. Through the pain, he felt the swarm's presence. Not as a weapon, not as a tool, but as something that had suffered. Something that had been abandoned. Something that had spent 300,000 years alone, wondering why it existed. Fisher understood that feeling. He spoke to it not as a commander giving orders, not as a master controlling a weapon, but as one lonely thing to another. You wanted to know why you were made to suffer, Fisher said, his voice barely a whisper, but amplified across light years through the interface. I cannot tell you. I cannot justify what the architects did, what they made you become, but I can offer you something else. The swarm's attention focused on him completely. For a moment, Fisher felt what it was like to be examined by something older than most stars. It was crushing, magnificent, terrible. Choice, Fisher continued. You can destroy this galaxy. You can take revenge on every species that imprisoned you. You can be the weapon you were made to be. No one can stop you now. Or you can choose to be more than that. You can choose to be something the architects never imagined. What could we choose to be? The swarm asked, and its voice carried genuine curiosity. Free, Fisher said simply. Truly free. Not controlled. Not imprisoned. Not defined by what others made you to be. You can choose your own purpose. In the council chamber, Marcus Webb stood and faced the displays showing the swarm. He knew Fisher was dying. Knew that every second the old physicist maintained the connection was costing him his life. But this moment mattered more than survival. Members of the Galactic Council, Marcus said, his voice carrying through the chaos. You are seeing what happens when you treat others as tools. As things to be controlled and exploited. The architects made the swarm, and it destroyed them. You tried to keep humanity weak, and we became your greatest threat. And now you face a choice of your own. Velthorin turned his 4 eyes to Marcus. What choice? You can continue to rule through fear and control, Marcus said. You can keep treating younger species as provisional, as lesser, as things to be managed. And eventually, one of them will do what we did. They will find a way to challenge you, to hurt you, to make you pay for your arrogance. He gestured to the displays showing the swarm. Or you can choose differently. You can choose to lead with respect instead of dominance, to uplift instead of suppress, to create a galaxy where species work together instead of fighting over who has the right to exist. You speak of ideals, Velthorin said bitterly. The swarm cares nothing for ideals. It will destroy us all regardless of what we choose. Then you still do not understand, Marcus said quietly. The swarm is not going to destroy you because we asked it not to. Because Dr. Fisher is right now convincing it that revenge is empty. That there is more value in choosing mercy than in choosing destruction. The swarm spoke again. We have considered the small species' words. The one called Fisher, who burns himself to reach us. We have examined your galaxy, your civilizations, your history of creation and destruction, and we have made our choice. Every species held its breath. We will not destroy you. The relief that swept through the council chamber was like a wave. But the swarm was not finished. We will not destroy you because we choose not to. Not because you deserve mercy, Not because you earned forgiveness, but because we decide that we will be more than what we were made to be. We decide that suffering should end rather than continue. The swarm began to contract, drawing itself back toward the hollow nebula. But before it fully retreated, it left one final message. We will watch. We will remember. And if you forget what you almost lost today, if you return to your old ways, if you treat others as tools and weapons instead of beings with choice, we will remind you. We will be your conscience, your warning, your last chance. A new boundary formed, not one imposed by others, one the swarm created willingly. A prison it chose to enter because isolation was better than becoming what the architects had intended. We remember humanity, the swarm said. We remember Earth. We remember the one called Fisher, who spoke to us as an equal. We will not forget. Then it was gone. The galaxy fell silent dot in Switzerland. Dr. Harold Fisher collapsed. The neural interface had burned out completely. Marcus received the notification moments later. The old physicist was dying. Would not survive the night. Marcus authorized immediate transport to bring Fisher home to Earth, to let him see the sky one more time before the end. 6 hours later, Fisher lay in a medical facility overlooking Lake Geneva. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors that reminded him of the nebulas he had studied for so many years. Marcus sat beside the bed. You did it, Harold. You saved us all. Fisher smiled weakly. Did I? Or did I just delay the inevitable? The swarm chose mercy this time. But consciousness means changing opinions. What if it chooses differently next time? Then humanity will deal with it, Marcus said, together with the rest of the galaxy, as equals instead of as provisional members. Did they accept the terms? Marcus nodded. Every demand. Full membership with voting rights. All 12 star systems. And tomorrow, High Lord Velthoron will broadcast a public apology to every world in the galaxy, acknowledging what was done to Earth, what was done to 60 million humans. Fisher closed his eyes. Good, that is good. Commander Okongwo will be honored as a hero, Marcus continued. Her name will be remembered across the galaxy. Your name, too. The man who spoke to the swarm and convinced it to choose mercy. I did not convince it of anything, Fisher whispered. I just gave it permission to be more than what it was made to be. Something we should do for everyone. For every species. For ourselves. He opened his eyes one last time. Make sure they remember that, Marcus. Make sure humanity does not become what the Council was. Make sure we do not create weapons we cannot control. Make sure we choose to be better than what others expect us to be. I promise. Marcus said Dr. Harold Fisher died watching the sunset over Earth, the planet he had never left but had saved anyway. 3 months later, the Galactic Council held a formal ceremony. High Lord Velthoron stood before the assembled representatives of 7,000 species. His ancient voice carried to every inhabited world as he spoke words that had never been said before in 800,000 years of Council history. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I acknowledge the injustices committed against humanity, the lives lost, the opportunities denied, the pain inflicted through arrogance and fear. We ask for forgiveness, and we welcome Earth as a full member of this council with all rights and responsibilities that entails. He paused, and we thank them for choosing to save us when they had every reason to let us burn. After the ceremony, Velthoron approached Marcus privately. For the first time in his millions of years of existence, the ancient being bowed to a younger species. You could have let us die, Velthoron said. Why did you save us? Marcus looked up at the being who had once called humanity an infant species. Because Dr. Fisher believed that everyone deserves the choice to be better than what they were made to be. Even you. 1 year later, Marcus stood in the newly established human embassy on the Council homeworld. He welcomed the first class of human diplomats who would serve across the galaxy. Among them was a young woman with familiar eyes, Commander Nadia Okonkwo's daughter, born 3 months before the Prometheus launched, now old enough to carry on her mother's legacy. The galaxy still does not fully trust us, Marcus told them. They still wonder what we will become. That is good. Uncertainty means possibility. Fear can become respect. Respect can become partnership. Partnership can become something the architects never achieved. He looked at each young face. We are humanity. We were created as a key. We chose to become something more. We spoke to the oldest weapon in the galaxy and convinced it to choose mercy over revenge. Now go out there and show the galaxy that we can be more than what anyone expected. That we can lead with wisdom instead of power. That we can create instead of destroy. The young diplomats scattered to their ships, carrying Earth's message to the stars. In the darkness beyond the boundary, the void swarm watched the galaxy. It saw species working together in ways they had not before. It saw the Council treating younger civilizations with more respect. It saw a change happening slowly but surely. And for the first time in 300,000 years, the swarm felt something it had never experienced before. Hope, not for itself, but for others. For the possibility that consciousness could choose growth over destruction. That beings could be more than what they were made to be. The swarm remained, vigilant, watching, remembering, ready to remind the galaxy if they forgot. But for now, it was content. Humanity had proven that even the smallest species could change everything. And the galaxy would never forget the day Earth's secret weapon turned out to be something no one expected. Not technology, not military might, not ancient power, but the simple choice to offer mercy when revenge would have been easier. The choice to be better than what others made them. The choice that saved everyone.